welcome to this week's live trading. Yeah, I wasn't around last week, and this week we've not going to be around much at all. So there won't be any non-farm payroll trading today because I'm off on a stag trip today. So I've only got really a couple of hours this morning to find a trade if I'm going to get a trade. So I'm looking at something at the moment, so eyeing it up. So we'll see what happens. I'll press pause for the time being. Okay, so what I'm going to do here this morning, I'm going to trying to find this little trade, and this the potential here on the pound this morning. We've got a divergence between this low here and this low here, and we've got an 8 a.m. pivot coming in around about 22.23. So it's only up here. So I'm looking to see if the pound can have that little blip up to there this morning. I'm just waiting for the close inside my bands, and it looks like that's going to happen here. And that stop below the low, so it will either be over very quickly. So I'll put a couple of units in or so. Okay, so we're going to close. Right, let's get that. First unit's in long. So there's 2 units in long. And then I'll put my stop below the loo. I won't put anything more than 2 units in because I've got so much conflict that on some of the higher time frames, like the hourly charts, the potential is for the pound to actually come down to its daily pivot. So this could be over very, very quickly. So I had to make a decision here as to which way. So 129.09 will be the stop. So I'm just putting that in. 29.09. 129.09. So even if this goes up and hits target, it's all tiny stuff here today. So at the moment anyway, we've got manufacturing figures out a bit later at 9:30, but I was just saying to the guys here in the trading room that because I've got to head off today, if I start trading after that too much, if I can find something quick, then that's fine, but I don't want to get stuck in a trade that I've got to hold on to and micromanage for hours after that. So, and I don't want to do that because like I said, I'm heading off today. So but we've got a daily pivot down here at 129.04, so just a bit below, and then we've got this 8 a.m. pivot. This can be coming in around about 22 or so. So it's a case of which way does it want to go. So there's certainly an argument for. We've got momentum to the downside at the moment on the hourly charts. It's fairly fresh, but it would still be. It could still rally to 22. Even with that momentum the way it is, so because it's not, I'm not asking much of it really. So it's really tiny stuff just to try and find a trade here this morning. And then some of you might say, well, why did you bother? Which is another good question really. And so, but no, there's a setup, and so I'll take it. But the one thing I can always do is to vary position size. Depending on the setup that I'm taking and what I'm trading. So if I'm taking a small setup, then I just downsize my position and say, well, it's not, there's a bit of conflict here. It could go either way. So I'll just make it a smaller position, which is what I've seemed to have had to have done a lot of the time on these day trades over the summer. But again, that's just maybe indicative of summer markets where you're getting a lot of conflict on the intraday basis. Anyway, so I'll press pause for now. Just back, it's now gone 8 o'clock, and we can see this pivot's come in now. The black line here, this is the target. It's actually, I projected it out at 22, but it's actually come in at 21.5. So it's tiny stuff. It really is if it can get there today. But it's tiny stuff if it goes down and stops me out as well. But just trying to find something small that I can get done in the time I have available this morning. So this is the target, this black line here. This is the 8 a.m. the new 8 a.m. pivots just come in. This is when it was 4 a.m. It changes at 4, and it stays that way for 4 hours because it's the 4-hour pivots, and then changes again at 8 a.m. Now, depending on your platform, some of you might be using something like MT4, in which case your 4-hour pivots will come in at different times. They'll come in at midnight. No, they won't. They'll come in at 10 p.m., then 2 a.m., then 6 a.m., and so on and so forth. So there'll be 2 hours different to mine. But anyway, this is where I've got this 8 a.m. pivot as coming in at, and so quite often these markets will hit these pivots that come in at at this time in the morning, so there's a decent odds of them of being hit, but obviously nothing's 100%. So I'm just using this information that we've had here. We've had a divergence down here, like I said, between this low and this low, and then just seeing if it can have a little bit of a pop. Having said that, the higher time frame, if I go to this chart, which is an hourly chart, I know you can't see all the information, but the hourly chart is sort of pressing towards the downside overall. So any move up should just be a blip before it coming down. So so I'm aware of that. I'm just trying to trade the blip at the moment. Anyway, we shall see. This is what it's looking like here, and so we'll watch it and see if it can get up to that 8 a.m. pivot this morning. Okay, just back. So for a minute there, it was looking like maybe it was going to turn up. It was sort of coming back up here and looking like it might want to turn. And just in the last 5 minutes, it's just come down. So yeah, a very small stop there at the moment. I may still find another trade yet this morning. Let me just show you the trade. So here it is. So the entries were 15s. I've actually got filled on the stops. That's not slippage, because I've said my stop was at 09, but I have to go below 09 on the offer. So obviously the ask is what I actually get filled at. So I get filled at the at the bid. So the bid's what I get filled at. So anyway, so there's the total loss there of £111. So it was always the potential there with the conflict and with the daily pivot below. It could well be that I've just got nicked and it still comes back up again. I don't have that sort of view on it that I would want to take another bite of the cherry on this one. So so no, I wouldn't want to necessarily do that. I will have to sit back and play a little bit of a watching game at the moment. I'm just going to have a quick look. Interestingly, whilst the pound's done that, the euro has actually gone up a bit more. So the euro's edging towards its 8 a.m. pivot. The euro didn't. The reason I didn't take it on the euro this morning, excuse me, was there wasn't any divergences on the euro. So, but the euro, as we can see, has done the opposite of the pound for the time being. So maybe the pound just wanted to come down and you know, fluff around a little bit, and still does come back up. We shall see. But I'll press pause for the time being. Okay, just come back, because you can see what's happened here is that I've just got stopped out there, and you see the pound's come straight back up into this little range here. Now the pound has some news out, manufacturing news coming out in an hour at 9:30. And it really, the pound at the moment is not really been doing anything for the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50 minutes or so. So it's really not done much. So stayed in this whole oval sort of range. So it could just be that I've just got blipped out here, and then the pound is still going to come up for that pivot. There's no point. I was just saying with the guys, it's one of those ones that it's not that good a setup that would be worthwhile saying, oh yeah, I'll go in again. But I'll certainly observe it and see if it does come up and say, well, okay, the analysis was right. It was just not necessarily that the timing was wrong, and it's not necessarily that the stop was too tight. It's traditional, put the stop below there. There's nothing wrong with that. It'd already done a divergence and made a new low here from this low. So I don't think that either. It's just one of those things that if I get blipped out sometimes, you can't always. The problem I think a lot of human traders have is that they're always trying to find an answer as to why did they get stopped out and what should they do differently next time. And yet there's not always the case. There's not necessarily anything that needs to be done differently. It's just one of those things. It's just a stop out, accept it and move on, sort of thing. Whereas a lot of people are like, oh no, my stop was too tight, next time I'll do this, and it's not necessarily the case. So I can look at a trade like this and say, no, there's nothing really wrong with it, it's just one of those things. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on this and see if it does come up to that level. Okay, so on this, I'm just bringing this recording back on again, because we can see what's going on with the pound here, and yes, it came that little bit lower, but as we can see, it's coming up now to that towards that 8 a.m. pivot. It's no, still not quite got there, but as you can see, it's now 9 o'clock. We've got news coming out at 9:30. It looks like the setup was correct. Obviously, we've not quite got there yet, but just that it decided to go that little bit lower first before turning around today. So it looks like that could well be the case. It has just about hit that 5-minute 50 and just having a reaction to that, but we'll see. So at least you can see that the intent where the intention was there today. The intention was there, but um, it just didn't work out. But it looks like it could still get up to that 8 a.m. pivot now. So anyway, I shall leave you to it. I've got to get this video at least produced and everything else that takes time. So I shall leave you to it. Enjoy your non-farm payrolls day, and I'll be back next Friday. See you then.